a boiling point following a series of aggressive strikes, with Israel now responding to Iran's missile attacks. Now, in a retaliatory strike, Israel has hit back at Iran, claiming that it conducted strikes against military targets in response to Tehran's attacks on Israel. Now, the attack comes in the wake of high-running anticipation of escalations after Tehran's attack. Remember, on 1st of October, over 200 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel, Iran's second direct attack on Israel in the last 6 months. Now, in a statement, IDF has said, and I quote, in response to months of continuous attacks from the regime in Iran against the state of Israel, right now, the Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran. Let's hear out what the IDF had actually had to say.
In response to months of continuous attacks from the regime in Iran against the state of Israel, right now, the Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran. The regime in Iran and its proxies in the region have been relentlessly attacking Israel since October 7th on 7 fronts, including direct attacks from Iranian soil. Like every other sovereign country in the world, the state of Israel has the right and the duty to respond. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. We will do whatever necessary to defend the state of Israel and the people of Israel.
The Israeli military is indeed confirming that they are carrying out what they describe as precise strikes on military targets inside of Iran, as we are getting these reports of explosions being heard in the Iranian capital of Tehran, and also seeing some quite dramatic images of plumes of smoke over the Iranian capital. Now, we don't know the exact nature of these targets or how many military bases the Israeli military has been striking inside of Iran tonight, but Israeli officials are taking pains to emphasize that these are only military targets, that they are not striking at any energy targets, nuclear or oil facilities, which we know had been considered by the Israeli government earlier in this process. I do expect that we will get a fuller accounting from the Israeli military of the targets that they struck and the number of aircraft potentially that appear to have been involved in this strike. What I can tell you from speaking with Israeli officials is that this decision to carry out these strikes on military targets was the process of weeks of deliberations within the Israeli Security Cabinet, as well as weeks of consultations between Israeli and U.S. officials. One Israeli official describing this to me tonight as a, quote, very diligent decision-making process. Another Israeli official telling me that they went after targets that, quote, posed a threat or could pose a threat to the state of Israel. Admiral Daniel Hagari, the Israeli military spokesman, in a video statement tonight saying that Israel has the right to defend itself and that it is now prepared for all offensive and defensive scenarios. But for the time being, Israel's Home Front Command has yet to make any changes in its guidelines. And for now, the situation in Israel is effectively normal.
Well, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Siddhant Mishra. Very good morning, Siddhant. Talking about the proxy dynamics in the entire situation, given the involvement of Iranian proxies, how will Iran's proxy involvement complicate Israel's military strategy moving forward?
Well, Kuhina, it's a very complicated territory. It's a very complicated region. And perhaps as far as Iran's security framework is concerned, then Iran projects its power in the Middle East through its proxies. And largely, in fact, Israel has been fighting with Iranian proxies, or perhaps defending its territory from the Iranian proxies. In last 3 months, Israel has perhaps achieved some big targets when it comes to eliminating Hassan Nasrallah, Ismail Haniyeh, Yahya Sinwar, and perhaps the ground invasion going on in Hama, in Gaza and Lebanon. But what happened on 1st of October is unprecedented, because Iran directly attacks Israel, which is very rare, which happened on very few occasions only. In April also, Iran launched an attack on Israel, and then on 1st of October, Iran launched an attack on Israel. Perhaps more than 200 ballistic missiles, projectiles, rockets were fired to Israel. And from that day, Israel decided to respond to that attack by Iran. And today morning, we have got to know that Israel has perhaps conducted airstrikes at some selected targets in Iran. We have also been told that cutting-edge F-35 fighter jets have been used. There have been 3 waves of raid conducted by Israel on Iran, and other than this, even the projectiles and the rockets have also been fired on Iran. Now, what sites have been targeted? Israel has to say that those are the military sites. But you know, Kohina, from last few days, this has been going on, that there are some plans to strike the Iranian nuclear sites or the oil fields. So it would really be interesting to see when the full assessment will be out. So far, what we're getting to know from the Iranian side is that their air defense systems has intercepted the projectiles and the rocket fired by Israel. In fact, there have been smoke seen at several places. The few of the locations in the urban areas have been targeted by Israeli forces. But as far as the full assessment is concerned, either of the sides have not come up with a detailed statement. So perhaps we're looking for a detailed statement. The larger question, Kuhina, right now is that where will this go here onwards? Because Iran attacks Israel now. Israel conducts retaliatory attack on Iran. Just a week back, Secretary Blinken was in Tel Aviv. Perhaps he met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Both sides held talks. America's focus, Kuhina, right now, as only few days of President Biden's presidency is remaining, perhaps his focus is, and he's putting in all energy and resources to stop war in the Middle East, to stop the conflict. And perhaps that's why he had sent Secretary Blinken to speak to Benjamin Netanyahu. In fact, America's position is that there have been success to Israel in the last 3 months. Most of the targets have been achieved. And the priority is to the release of hostage and also Israel coming to the table for the talks. Now, since the hostages are not being released by the Hamas, there is immense pressure that both US and Israel have made on the Hamas leaders to release the hostages, but the hostages are not being released by Hamas. Perhaps is the reason that the war is continuing in the Middle East. Because last time, Kohina, when Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed through the video message, it was the first time after the death of Yahya Sinwar, it was the first time he made the offer public to the Hamas that surrender the hostage and we will let you live.
Right, Siddhant, I'll request you to stay with us on the broadcast. I'll get back to you to understand the role of Secretary Blinken being in Middle East and the role he actually plays in de-escalating the tensions. But joining us on the broadcast is defense expert Major General, retired Major General A.K. Savage, who is also a defense expert with extensive experience in military strategy and regional security. A very good morning, Mr. Savage. Sir, how do you assess Iran's military capabilities in response to Israeli strikes at the moment?
No doubt. See, as far as Kohina, first of all, one must understand, I think Israel has shown the restraint. Israel has not hit the nuclear facility and also the oil and gas facilities of Iran. Because if that would have happened, then this war would have flared up, because they would, it means that Iran would have then retaliated and then will try to destroy the energy sector of Israel, maybe also Saudi, UAE, and it would have a cascading effect in the world economy. I suppose that restraint has been shown. Now, as far as Iran military capability is concerned, Iran has a S-400 and S-300, which is the air defense system given by Russia. And it is, S-400 is one of the best air defense systems available in the world. And it is at par with Iron Dome. So therefore, the nuclear facility and oil sector facility not been targeted, only the military targets have been hit. These are basically missile side, rocket side, and also IRGC headquarters. It possibly looks like that partially the strikes may have been successful, but majority of them by S-400 and S-400, which has been deployed by Iran, maybe that they would have intercepted. If no one knows what exact damage which has been done. But remember that as far as Israel is concerned, they have used F-35, which are stealth aircraft. And stealth aircraft is very difficult to detect them. So time will only tell as to how much damage has been done in this military strike. But it's seemingly that the restraint has been shown by Israel. Israel do not want this now war to flare up or widen up as a regional war. This pressure is possibly of US. US has been trying to tell and very rightly brought out that as far as Joe Biden is concerned, he wants to show that during his tenure as a president, he could achieve something. He is trying his best that some sort of a truce follow ceasefire take place between Israel in Hamas, Israel and Hezbollah, and also his interest is somehow, however, he should able to get this hostages released. I suppose that's why Israel has very, one can say, intelligently shown the restraint so that the duel between Israel and Iran can stop and Israel can concentrate more on Hezbollah and Hamas because these are the proxies of Iran and two military aims are still not being achieved as far as Israel is concerned. One is return of hostages and second is 70,000 Israelis have gone or migrated from North Israel. They have to be brought back. To bring them back, you have to push Hezbollah from southern Lebanon to the central Lebanon. For that, the ground operation has to be done. So possibly this is the main aim of Israel. Israel, whatever strike has been done on Iran, has been done on military target, not on Iran installation and the energy sector. I suppose the aim is not to widen this war, and this was a pressure from US and other European countries because that would have a cascading effect because the moment Israel does this, it will be countered by Iran, and then you never know where this war would have stopped. Rahima.
Right, Mr. Savich, I'll request you to stay with us on the broadcast. My next question will be to Siddhant. Siddhant, help us understand the role that Secretary Blinken might end up playing in de-escalating the tension since he is already there in the Middle East and having all sorts of meetings.
Well, look, Kohina, how Middle East works. Middle East, most of the countries in the Middle East are the allies of the United States. So one thing is for sure that they would not be, if there is something that they want to oblige to the US president, then they will oblige it to the new US president, not to the one who is going to be out of power in January. Point number one. Point number two, President Biden is has put in all energies and resources into Middle East because he thinks that is perhaps one conflict which he can stop, and that would be counted as a legacy that he would leave behind. So and that is the reason that he has been sending Secretary Blinken to Middle East. I think this time it was his Secretary Blinken's 12th visit to Middle East, if I'm not mistaken. Both Prime Minister Netanyahu and Secretary Blinken sat down for the talks. Now, the focus of US is that to put pressure on Hamas through Qatar and other countries in the Middle East so that they surrender the hostages. And once the hostages would be released, then Israel would agree for the ceasefire or perhaps would stop the war. That is a plan. And now also we are getting to know, Kohina, that in fact some of the journalists, senior journalists in US has been reporting that after Israeli strikes on Iran ended in the early morning local time, a senior Biden administration official called on Iran not to escalate the conflict further. This should be the end of the direct exchange of fire between Israel and Iraq. And Israel has made clear to the world that its response is now complete. And as the gentleman was highlighting, that no strategic locations have been targeted, like nuclear site or the oil field. If that had been targeted, then it would have escalated, flared up the situation further. So this is attack from Israel to Iran is retaliatory, and perhaps it's also a message that we are attacking you because you attacked us, and perhaps let's end it after this. That's kind of a message which Israeli side is sending to the Iran and in fact to the world. Point number one. Point number two, it's very rare that Israel and Iran engage militarily, because both are the military might in the Middle East, and perhaps to keep the Middle East stable and peaceful. Israel has been fighting with Iranian proxies, but very rare that Israel has directly engaged Iran. So that would be catastrophe if both countries will keep on engaging militarily. So it's Iran attacked Israel, Israel did retaliatory attack, and looks like this is going to end now. And we could expect some sort of a breakthrough, perhaps, but Israel is adamant and Israel is very clear that unless hostages would be released, there would not be any ceasefire in the Middle East. So for that, US is putting pressure on Hamas through Qatar, through other Arab countries, so that the hostages can be released, and then Israel can be brought to the table for the talks as far as peace is concerned.
Right, Siddhant. Major General Sivach, with senior Biden administration reaching out on calls and focus of US to pressure majorly on Hamas, what indicators should we actually watch for that signal either escalation or de-escalation in the region?
The point is Yahya Sinwar has been killed and his dead body is there. And possibly the Hamas is trying to say that if dead body comes back, they possibly may release the hostages. The key point today is the release of hostages by Hamas. If the Hamas releases the hostages, then you'll find the temper going down. As far as Israel is concerned, this is a priority one, which is left, that they almost about 100 hostages are still with Hamas. And in case Hamas releases it, maybe that Yahya Sinwar dead body can be given, or by some other method, and anti-Blinken is successful in ensuring Qatar, Egypt, and all these countries put pressure and they accept it, this will be a greatest breakthrough, because then this will be a beginning of some sort of a ceasefire coming, because the main thing which is left is a release of hostages. I suppose US is putting all its eggs on that. US, in fact, I was saying earlier also, Joe Biden wants to leave this chair, to leave this legacy that he was managed to get this war, a ceasefire done. Right. Whether he succeed or not succeed, time will only tell. But the way the situation is now fanning out, it looks he may succeed, because Israel has shown the restraint. Israel has only done what Iran did on 1st October, done more by, announcing it what it's going to do. And it was more of showing rather than the actual one. And same way, Israel did not want to basically complicate the situation, did not want to flare up, because if he strikes on nuclear facility and oil sector, there would have been a reaction from Iran, and this war would have then escalated. But I suppose time is now ripe that some sort of ceasefire must take between Israel and Hamas, and the hostages to be released. The key word is, in case the hostages are released, then you will find it, the peace talks will be successful. You will find it some sort of peace talk, then again taking between Israel and Hezbollah, and also Israel and also Houthi rebel. So everything depends upon the fate of these hostages. And the way the situation is unfolding, the way the military operation was conducted by Israel, it gives the indication possibly we are going toward that, because Israel has already announced they have completed their military operation. They have targeted where they wanted to hit as far as Iran is concerned. I think a very sensible step. I suppose a very positive response coming from Middle East, that there can be some sort of a truce and there can be a ceasefire, and the hostages may be released, if not soon, at least in time to come.
Right, Major General, I'll request you to stay with us on the broadcast, as this is a developing story. Tensions continue to escalate and we're getting yet another breaking input. Now, after Israel attacks, Iran has now responded, saying to the esteemed people of Iran, it is hereby reported that despite previous warnings from the authorities of the Islamic Republic to the criminal and unlawful Zionist regime to refrain from any adventurous actions, this illegitimate regime is in a provocative act targeted military centers in the provinces of Tehran, Khuzestan and Ilam early this morning. Now, this aggressive action was successfully intercepted and countered by the integrated air defense systems of the country, resulting in limited damage to some locations. Now, the extent of this incident is currently under investigation. So, these are the latest inputs that we are tracking from the ground. Well, Siddhant continues to stay with us on the broadcast. Siddhant, help us understand more details into the entire situation and Iran's response.
Well, look, Kohina, as far as Tehran is concerned, and there is always the domestic audience, which perhaps matters the most for the government of Iran. In fact, whenever they attack Israel, then perhaps they claim more than the damage that those ballistic missiles and rockets cause to the Israeli territory. So just, it's very important to play to the gallery, or perhaps to keep the domestic audience, happy and in a way, it should not reflect badly on the government of Iran. And they should be seen as defending the Iranian territory. And on the same lines, in fact, there's a statement which has come from the Iranian military for the people of Iran that the attack from Israel has been reported, despite previous warnings from the authorities of the Islamic Republic to the criminal and unlawful Zionist regime to refrain from any adventurous action. This illegitimate regime, in a provocative act, targeted military centers in the provinces of Tehran, Khuzestan and Ilam early this morning. So Iran confirms that 3 of their military sites have been targeted by Israel, one in Tehran, one in Khuzestan and one in Ilam. In fact, Iran says that this aggressive action was successfully intercepted and countered by the integrated air defense systems of the country, resulting in limited damage to some location. Iran is saying there has been a limited damage to the Israeli attack. The extent of this incident is currently under investigation. The extent that the public is invited to maintain solidarity and calm the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Defense Forces. So that's the statement which has come from the Iran. So again, playing to the gallery, perhaps trying to build this narrative that there has been a very limited damage. The air defense systems could intercept the projectiles, rockets, missiles fired by the Israel. The military bases have been targeted, but there has been a very limited target. And and rest the situation is normal in Tehran and other places in Iran. So that's the narrative, that's the message which government wants to send out.
Right. Thank you so much, Siddhant and Major General A.K. Sivech, for getting us all those details.